My name is Vishwas, and I'm currently a fourth year undergraduate student doing my BTech in CS at PS University, Bangalore. Today, I'll share with you guys about my experiences on interning at IIT Bombay. I'll probably talk about the project that I worked on and other projects that were there related to robotics in the lab I was working in. So, the lab I worked in is called Eyantra. Their goal is to basically help students who want to get started with robotics and embedded systems. To do this, they host multiple events every year, like the Eyantra Robotics Competition and the Eyantra Idea Competition. And the only way to get an internship at the lab is to basically participate in one of these competitions and get to the final round. These events are actually aimed at undergraduate students, so anyone even can participate, even if you don't have a prior experience in robotics or embedded systems. So I participated in the robotics competition along with three other college mates during my second year in college. At that time, my experience in computer vision and robotics was very little, but the competition was aimed in such a way that it's for people who do not have prior experience. So they made sure they provide appropriate references for us to go through the competition. So our goal was to create a service robot that can follow a line and pick up colored blocks and place them at different destinations. And The whole task was actually the whole competition was split into around 3 to 4 tasks, and each task had different deliverables that we had to complete, and the teams would get cut down at every task as we move from one task to the next. So after completing all the tasks, teams are selected to showcase their robots at the final round, which takes place in IIT Bombay itself. From there, the finalists are taken into for an interview, and based on which they're selected for the internship. So the interview is to mainly see how well you worked with the team and what your contribution was during the competition. And with that, if you get into the internship, it's around 2 months, usually around June and July every year. And at the end of the internship, you have a exhibition kind of a thing at IIT Bombay where you can showcase the project that you worked on to the IIT Bombay faculty. So coming to the internship itself, the lab had multiple robotics related projects when we worked there. We had a underwater robotics division where they were trying to build a robot that looked like a fish, and we had control systems related where they were trying to build a platform that can stabilize an object in the middle, and a robot that can balance and move on top of a football and things like that. There was also Slam, on which I and my teammate worked on. There was also 3D model reconstruction using the Kinect, NLP, web development, and even FPGA design, where a robot was controlled completely using an FPGA. So whatever your interest may be in robotics, it's possible that Eyantra has a project related to that. So each of these projects have a mentor who will guide you through the whole project and make sure you reach the deliverables on time. So overall, the internship was a great learning experience for me, at least. I had no experience in Slam before actually going to the internship, and I got to build a differential drive robot which can map a place using a Kinect. I got to work on simulations on Gazebo and microcontroller programming, building the actual robot and things like that. At the end, our team was able to build a robot that can create 2D and 3D maps of the lab that we were working in, and also plan paths and move autonomously from one place to another. So the mentors are really helpful. They gave me appropriate references whenever I was stuck with a problem and things like that. And the experience I gained by actually working on the project actually helped me to get an internship at Inventor the next year, where I got to develop a similar navigation stack and deploy it onto production robots at multiple locations. So yeah, apart from the internship, it was also fun to explore Bombay. I hadn't been to Bombay before, so that was fun. Accommodation was provided at the college hostel itself, and but you can also choose to stay outside the campus. And the stipend was, of course, enough to cover all the travel, stay, and food expenses during the internship period. Um, so yeah, that was basically my experience at interning at Bombay. So I would recommend undergraduate students to try out the Yantra competition, irrespective of whether you get the internship or not, because that is the competition itself is a great way to improve your skills in robotics. And It's easy to participate even if you do not have prior experience, because they make sure you to provide proper instructions and provide the hardware also to build the robot. make sure you have a good team that's willing to work throughout the competition. It's kind of like a marathon, because this competition starts around somewhere around November, and it goes on until March. So it's important that you guys are willing to work towards the deliverables, and make sure you reach the final stage. So having a good time, and willing to spend some time in learning new things during the competition is important. So the prerequisites required to intern at Invento. So the important thing is for them to have a opening. First of all, the company. So people will come in and go out. A lot of interns work in the company. So it's important to have a opening in the position that you want to work in. So before actually approaching the company, it's better to see what topic you want to work on, and make sure you have certain prior knowledge on that particular topic. So when I approached Invento, I wanted to work mainly on the autonomous navigation part of the robot. So I made sure I know a bit about the navigation stack, and then approached them and asked if there was a intern position available at Invento for the autonomous navigation part. And luckily, there was a role open when I asked for it, and that's how I got into it.
Vishwas, can you tell us a bit about the timeline of when you applied and how long it took you for getting the approval, to how when you started the internship and how long it was at Invento?
So at Invento, yeah, sure. So that was when COVID struck, actually. So it was around March when I wanted to look for internships. That was during my once at the end of my third year. So basically, our exams had finished, and I was looking for an internship so that I can work on something related to robotics. And that's when I came across Invento while searching for robotics companies in Bangalore, in and around Bangalore. And from there I applied, and it took around a week for we had multiple interviews, and so that they can check whether I have the required experience on navigation and stuff. And after a week they were happy to take me in, and I started almost immediately. So I think I started around June, maybe. Um, I'm not sure of the exact date, and I worked till August. So that's when my fourth year started out. So during those times, I was able to implement the navigation stack that's present on ROS. And implement my own custom planners, that because they wanted the robot to generate paths in a particular way, and follow that path. And so I worked with motion planning, and control track controllers and things to make sure the robot stays on track and things like that. So at the end, I left Invento in August, and then I started out with my fourth year.
Okay. And I have one question for both Sai as well as for you, Vishwas. So you guys have both done internships both at academia as well as industry. So in your experience, which was a better experience, and how are they different? And this is something that many people don't realize. What's the difference between the internship that you do in academia versus internship, and what's the difference? What do you suppose?
Okay. So Sai, do you want to go first, and then I'll
Yeah,
probably.
sure. I think, Kaushik, that's a great question. I mean, one of the fundamental differences I see is the objectives. Like at Inventor, you want your bots out, right? You want your bots to go on production and do stuff. But at academia, it's more about papers, right? You want to get some research done, and you want to get results and stuff like that. The amount of perfection might not be 100% in academia, but when you're dealing with customers and shipping the bots out, you need 100% of your bot to be working, right? So I think that's where that's one of the major and the most important difference, because it takes very less time to go from 0 to 80, but it takes a lot of time to go from 80 to 100. So in Invento, that's where the challenge comes. Like the majority of the time is taken from reaching 80% to 100%. But in academy, you're good. Like once you're done with 0 to 80, run your experiments, put them on the paper and throw it out. So I think that's one difference. If Vishwas wants to add on, he can add on.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And one more thing that I felt was my academic experience was basically with Eyantra and internship in my college itself. And these were done during a time when I was just starting out with robotics. So that I think is a really great thing to do. So when you're just starting out, it's better to get academic positions where you can explore the space and learn different things, because when you get into the industry, they usually have certain expectations on what you need to do when you work on over there. And and most of the times they do expect you to have some prior knowledge based on the position you're applying for, and that is usually not present when you get into the academic side. So you're free to explore and research on different topics and then implement things. So that's what I felt when as a major difference when I worked between the academic and the industry based.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so if I get the question right, you think okay, so the startup to apply for a startup, you need more experience, so you want to work on individual products on your own. So you're planning to take a gap. Is that right? So I think that's totally fine if you want to take some gap to work on something that you really like, and in by that gain some experience, and that's not really a bad thing in my opinion. Uh, in fact, I myself am working on something that I wanted to work on right now. So I finished my fourth year, and currently I'm not working anywhere. So I have a personal project that I'm working on, and I wanted to finish this and then approach startups based on that. So to me, that's really not a bad thing. But like Sai said, you have to make sure that you justify each and every day that you're taking to do your personal project. It's at the end of your run, you should have something to show that you have worked on, and basically prove that the time you took off is to do something productive. If that is there, I think it's a great thing to do. And future plan, Gokul, are you asking about my future plan? Oh, okay. Yes. So yeah, like I said, I'm working on my own project right now. It's related to building a complete 3D navigation stack in Rosto. So that's the idea I wanted to work on. So that is something I worked on as my final year project too. And once that is completed, I plan to approach different startups and see how that navigation stack can help their robots navigate autonomously. So that's kind of the idea. So to develop my own product to a certain extent based on whatever resources are available already in ROS, and then see how that product can be used for multiple robots in different companies. So that's what I'm doing right now. And are you aware of availability and process for winter internships, especially in Indian universities? Winter internships. Okay, I am not really sure about that. If you're done with your college and you plan to work as a full-time assistant, so you can take up RA positions in research institutes like the ISC or IIT. That's possible during this year, during the winter part of the year. And apart from that, I'm not sure if there are any specific winter internships for undergraduate students. If Sai or Kaushik know something about it, I think they can add to it.
Yeah, so it varies again from institution to institution, but the general rule of thumb is that if there are any availabilities for an Indian institution, you can usually find it on the lab's website. Most labs today have their own sort of website, and each of them have their own newsletters and stuff like that. So you can follow those. They have their own LinkedIn pages. For example, for IISc, there's RBCCPS, which actively hires interns during the summer and winter sessions. So they usually put out they don't really publicize internship opportunities as much. So as and when you approach the winter cycle, then it's about time that you start approaching on your own. So there's no like sort of formalized process per se for things like this, because it's so competitive, and they anyway get to they get a lot of emails even without advertising, so they don't really find the point of putting out too much of publicity on that. So when the time comes, it's up to you to proactively go around, and it's a lot of word of mouth as well, right? So there's no like formalized process, at least that I'm aware of. So if there's any other discrepancies here, then others can feel free to add on here. But in my experience, I haven't seen any formal application process per se. which is generalizable to Indian universities. Thank you, Vishwas, for sharing your experiences.